think that there's like a data literacy crisis. I think that we are in this weird time where data has never been more accessible. Data has never been dashboarded more. And I think we've sort of crossed that peak where if you don't know something, it's probably to you embarrassing to ask what that thing is or how that should be. So many people coming to us that are looking to make XYZ decision based on these metrics. And we're like, I think you're looking at the wrong thing here.
That's Jordan Graham. I'm Sean McCarthy, and this is the Lucky Orange Show. Jordan Graham is the CEO of Mantle, which has become a true powerhouse in the Shopify app ecosystem. They arm app teams with data and resources that they need to grow their business faster. Now, in this conversation today, Jordan and I talked about why data literacy is a real problem that we need to talk more about. We talked about situations when you can and can't trust your data and your reporting. And we also talked about how to build a better relationship with things like dashboards so that when you walk into a room and the data is a little fuzzy and everybody has an opinion, you can still make great decisions. So whether you're an app developer, you're on the merchant side, or you're not even in the Shopify ecosystem at all, I think that this conversation is valuable because Jordan shared great perspective about how they're considering data for modern teams. What do you need? How do you need it to be shaped up? How do you want to best use it from a day-to-day basis to make better decisions? So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Jordan Graham from Mantle. Jordan, it's good to see you. I'm really excited to chat. Before we hit roll here, before we hit record, you used a phrase that says your data is underemployed. And I absolutely resonate with that. I'm even more excited to kind of dive in than I was before we jumped on because I also believe that across the board, people's data is underemployed. And that's one of the reasons why this podcast even exists. Mantle keeps popping up. It first came on my radar via Tectonic, that the event that you guys threw and kind of made waves through our ecosystem and our team. Our team wasn't able to go, but they were up there for additions, so maybe next year. For anybody who is in the ecosystem, the Shopify ecosystem, who is not aware yet, kind of what is Mantle and why does it exist?
Okay. Why does it exist? That question starts
let's get existential.
2016, I think, is where that story starts. I was a developer advocate at Shopify a while ago, and was part of the team that was like rolling out the billing API to customers. And we were kind of on the front lines of having these conversations with all the partners that were adopting it. And it became pretty clear that it wasn't super loved by partners, which was just like a product of newness, change. You're going to ruffle feathers in part, but then there were also some frictions that came with it. We saw how hard it was to adopt. I think the built-in API is honestly fantastic, probably a bit of an unpopular opinion. It's just got some primitives that allow you to do anything you want, but that's like also the issue. It allows you to do anything you want, but you have to figure it out and do it, right?
Always a balance.
So it took a lot of time to convince people that it could handle sophistication. But once your revenue started going through Shopify because of the billing API, that meant all your reporting was coming from Shopify. You're now looking at Shopify for all of the data that you maybe previously would get from Stripe, for instance, or whatever payment channel you're using. And again, Shopify gives you a lot of data, but they kind of put it in your hands and say, figure it out. And so when we launched Mantle, I kind of wrote our only blog post that we have. And it was a love letter to the ecosystem because it's kind of a lot of the things that I wish I had to offer as a developer advocate back then. But over time, the ideas changed a lot. Like I previously said, we understood that a core problem around billing was like the setup to get started. So the first version of Mantle was a way for you to spin up billing in a really simple, easy way without having to become a billing platform yourself. It's not why most partners get out of bed in the morning. So figured if we could help them stay focused on what really motivates them, their product, then that would be a good service. But that's a pretty like high trust relationship when you're trying to take ownership of the billing. So one of the ways that we thought that we could build that trust was also another problem that needed to be solved, which is like, how do we help partners make sense of their reporting in a way that brings them more closely in line to what other SaaS operators get to enjoy when they're not building in an ecosystem like Shopify. Yeah, that was the original idea of Mantle. That's we weren't really sure what kind of company we were building, if it was going to be like a lifestyle thing or whatnot. We're just a bunch of people that really love the ecosystem and wanted to build something fun with a different angle. But we started circulating this to partners early on. Had a lot of relationships that I was able to tap into and say, hey, like, you've been around for a long time. Um, you probably have solved most of these problems, I hope, by now, but would you use something like Mantle if you were just starting out? And over again, they're like, just starting out? What are you talking about? We haven't touched our building in 6 years because what we've built is so fragile and it's so hard to reverse it if we get it wrong. Like, if you think you can handle our scale, then like, let's talk. Like, we'd love to try it or move forward with it. So that was when we realized, okay, this is like an ecosystem wide opportunity, not just for people just getting started. And those conversations ended up being so fruitful for us because they started to connect the dots on, if you control billing and you have our data, we could do this around partnerships. We could do this around customer success. That's really hard for us right now. And that forced us to think a lot and forced us to try to understand what we were going to build. But in doing so, I think it revealed something pretty incredible, which is that like pretty much any customer that we talk to, so any app partner, their data is just radically underemployed, as you said. They approach data from first and foremost from a report standpoint. They want to build dashboards to make decisions. And then some of them will try to build into operational workflows. They'll try to leverage the same data, but in a different place, completely isolated from the work that's being done in reporting and dashboards, kind of blissfully ignorant of like whatever segments or cool curations happening by people spending time digging and analyzing the data. That'll be just isolated and siloed away from the data infrastructure that's powering operational workflows, which also need to be stood up and built from scratch and then maintained. But in most cases, that's like where it's stopping, which is like especially tragic because like there's like a third level of activation if you really want to employ data, and that's product experience. Like, how does the customer experience your product? Whether that's ensuring they get on the right plan based on who they are, or ensuring that their feature entitlements are timely and responsive to their needs. There's a whole world of data activation on that side. But then like forward looking at like where we're trying to go and where the world's pulling everybody on the AI side, like those three buckets, that's like pretty comprehensive context of your business, from customer acquisition, where they're coming from, to what are they doing in your app, to sort of everything in between. And as we see more and more pressure to adopt AI, I think one of the big limitations on trust is that there are blind spots because of your data infrastructure that don't allow you to fully trust AI to make decisions for you or make recommendations even. So we think that unifying these three things can put us in a pretty strong position to help people not just build trust with their own agents, but build trust with their data wherever that looks to be living. Ideally through Mantle, if we're able to if we're able to get people to a spot where they trust data, then we're able to get people back to focusing on why they get out of bed, which is to build cool product for their customers and not worry about all the brittle infrastructure and pipelines they've built to make a one call on this obscure metric that they're tracking.
Yeah. I mean, I think that people are doing their best to make great decisions with their data. And like you said, there's a lot of different layers to the connections that happen between data sources. And even if it's from one source, just making sure that's clean and trustworthy. And, one thing that I do love a good story where it's like, we're so plugged in, we heard a problem and built a solution. And that is so helpful when it turns into like messaging and content and biz dev and all stuff. It's like We literally know that we know this problem exists. We know there's fit in the market for us. What types of decisions, you kind of already highlighted this a little bit, but what kinds of decisions are people making using Mantle? I would say kind of, and tell me if I'm wrong, like broadly speaking, we're kind of talking about the entire optimization of everything, but it's also
Hmm.
almost like RevOps, I think is a phrase that you guys throw around from time to
Yeah.
time. What sort of decisions ultimately are you trying to help people make with Mantle, and how does it changing the game away from those traditional tools and traditional dashboards that people would just, flip a coin and hope they make the right call?
Yeah. Such a uh, broad like spectrum of questions like on a pretty regular basis. Uh, we get customers that are just starting out that are trying to understand when is like this first Shopify payment going to hit my bank account. But then we get other customers that are operating at tremendous scale, and they're trying to find what like segment is being powered by what marketing campaign or what channel, and figure out if the acquisition strategy that they've been operating is working effectively. I think like it just varies so much depending on what stage of company you're in, and it like kind of raises like a an interesting thing. It just about like the appropriateness of certain metrics and certain types of
Mm-hmm.
reporting for a stage of company. We see so many people coming to us that are looking to make XYZ decision based on these metrics, and we're like, I think you're looking at the wrong thing here. But yeah, Mantle today, like if you think of the spectrum of data that we're covering, we have your acquisition data, so like where are people coming from, and then plugging into the Shopify Partner API, we're working with your platform data, understanding your installs and uninstalls, your subscription data, subscribes, upgrades, downgrades. Then there's like your real transaction and revenue data, which most app partners know can be a nightmare to reconcile with like MRR and stuff like that. But then I don't think a lot of people expect this or realize it until they get using us. But like we're actually really keen and interested in behavioral data as well. With that billing engine that we created, we needed to be able to consume usage events in order to have usage charges, right? So we just made the decision, hey, like, what if we're agnostic about what kind of event or why you send us an event? We could use that for behavioral reporting. So everything from like understanding customer activation inside your app through to the types of funnels that you'd want to understand where drop off is happening.
Yeah.
Um,
I
Possible as
love the idea of
well.
stitching that in there too, because it's like,
Mm,
you're going to have to reconcile the back end and the performance at some point. You can't, in the website optimization side, you can increase conversion rates, but you're getting bad conversions. There's definitely such a thing as a bad conversion. And so on the app side, 100% bringing in those usage metrics. And like, you made me think of a phrase where it's like, don't major in the minors, meaning
yeah.
don't go ahead. If you're just getting started, if that's the bucket you're in, maybe you don't need to pay attention to 50 things all at once. Maybe there's a few core things. I imagine even for those people just getting started, the usage side does come into play for a lot of the decisions they're making. And
I think it's super
um
important. Yeah,
and that has forced you guys to be flexible. I imagine that shows up in how people can interact in self-service themselves, within the platform, maybe also like filtering capabilities and things like that too.
for sure. Yeah, I think like it's interesting. Like the bigger app partners that we work with are way slower to move on migrating their billing infrastructure. But these new guys that are coming in, it's just like this is what I'm here for. I've been vibe coding my eyes out, and now I want something to help me with my billing infrastructure. But in doing so, they're kind of setting up usage events from day one, right? So we're witnessing this like data maturization that's like happening with these like early guys where they're able to get started tracking things that feel out of the way pretty early and pay attention to things and improve their onboarding flows and conversion pretty rapidly, that like when the big guys finally implement it, they could see that cascade effect of these usage events across the data they've been operating on, because they might just be here for reporting, right? At least initially. It's fun to see sort of those like, oh, I get it now, like this makes more sense. um, But like you mentioned something there earlier about like tracking like onboarding activation to like revenue, or are we targeting the right people? The I think one of the coolest things that Mantle offers is just like a chance for all these different disciplines within a business to converge around a single data set, um, um, and give teams more responsibility in elevating the company. So you think about the sort of traditional uh, data workflow of like somebody who's like very product focused, right? It's very difficult to get that data pipeline all the way from what features being used to what's the LTV of these customers that are doing it versus not doing it, kind of thing. But that's just default with Mantle. Like that's sort of like a table stakes offering that we're putting forward for people to be able to dabble in, because we think it should just be like accessible, and we think it's how people should be thinking. Like it's more than just like, is the button getting clicks? It's, is the button, our button clicks making us money, right?
Yeah.
Our button clicks keeping customers happy and with us for a long time. So we're able to bring CX and sales and product and like executive decision makers all into the sort of the same data house, so that you don't have to worry about one team using mixed space, or we'll call it mixed space for now. Combining a couple of them there, but or some other team operating out of like their HubSpot sales dashboard, or another team operating out of wherever they're running CX from. Um, Instead, you could like live in the same place and take advantage of the discoveries as new segments are being created or new analysis is happening. Pull it all together, work as a unit, and see those like barriers in communication. A lot of weekly business reviews are spent arguing over whose data is right. So hopefully
Totally.
we could get rid of that for them.
Totally. And I mean, you mentioned earlier having confidence in AI, having confidence in data. And that's a common theme in a lot of these conversations I'm having about making better decisions with data is like, we don't even know if we can trust our platforms, let alone when we combine multiple sources and we have multiple POVs from different employees, all trying to push in approximately the same direction. So what it sounds like is if we can give people a unified source and a unified place to go where they can tap into their needs, that can instill that confidence. And then everybody's speaking closer to the same language, at least.
Yeah, totally. I think the biggest part of that is just like making it easy for people to validate on their own. But it's still really hard, right? Like it's
Sure.
hard, especially for Shopify app partners. And I like the sympathy card on myself. Like it's hard for us, and like we like put a lot of energy and effort into this because if we were just selling to pure SaaS companies, we'd be able to go and say, hey, like this is the data stack that you're currently using, this is what our reporting says. They're pretty close. This is why ours is different. And usually get like the thumbs up and go from there. But with Shopify, we haven't met many people that are deeply confident in their own data infrastructure. So like we don't even really get like a good benchmark to compare ourselves to. In a lot of cases, we're running on best guesses from what a partner thinks it should be, and then we have to drill in and say, well, this is why it's different. And partners are really smart. Like they're developing sophisticated assumptions on things, and they're doing their best to track without over indexing their resources on becoming a data and reporting team. Um, but it's still really tricky for them to be like, okay, I really believe this data now. Especially because sometimes data is weird. Data does weird things. So it's something that we have to always keep our finger on, making sure data isn't just like synced up, but making sure that it's clear what story we want this data to tell from our definitions around LTV or MRR. The number of customers that we get that say, oh, your MRR is wrong. And we're like, compared to what? And they point to the Shopify partner dashboard, which does not have an MRR metric in it at all. It just has
Hmm.
earnings. They say this is our earnings, and I'm like, oh, like no, like that's not MRR. You're not comparing to the right thing, and that's like kind of frustrating at times because it's just a first impression that really can't do much about. unless you're going to splash a banner up. This is not your earnings report.
Digital
But
note,
like
yeah.
it like um it just goes to show that people are like they're pretty earnest in wanting to have their data, but like it's just been such an inaccessible thing unless you're willing to go really deep on it
Do you
that
think
like
that's the primary driver of distrust in the data is like mismatched, or is it lack of clarity around what the pattern is? Because I think that there's a big struggle to look at metrics, even if you know what the metrics mean, even if you know how they relate to one another. There is a big challenge to spot patterns and build a narrative and then make decisions. But then there's definitely like because we get that sometimes. Hey, Google Analytics is showing something different than Lucky Orange, and we have to
mm,
rectify that and say, well, that's what this is. That's what this is. Do you think that's kind of where the challenge with trusting data comes from? Is trusting that the numbers are accurate, or is it something else?
uh my hottest take on this is like I think that there's like a data literacy crisis. I think that we are in this weird time where um, data has never been more accessible. Data has never been dashboarded more. And I think we've sort of crossed that peak where if you don't know something, it's probably to you embarrassing to ask what that thing is or how that should be used. And then you've got people talking about what their most important metrics are and why these are the ones you need to care about it. Um, I think that that's the biggest issue for trust. I think that uh, there's a lot of assumptions that we have to tear down on a regular basis at Mantle, and we are more than willing to gently guide people through that. And I think our best relationships that we've had with people are people that have approached these conversations super honestly and earnestly. And we always get to really good results and elevated games. But like when your first relationship with your data is uh, looking at the entirely wrong metric, expecting a different outcome, or not totally understanding what its role in your business is, then I think that it's really easy to distrust other things because your first step in a cascade of data understanding isn't going to be where it needs to be. To your point, when those little fractures pop up around data discrepancies between two things that should be the same, yeah, that can be a huge pain in the ass. But then being able to rely back on like why things are miscalculated, or in our case, in certain moments, it's just being tremendously honest, saying, "Hey, let's resync your data to see if our data's off." We run it. We don't jump to the conclusion that the customer's wrong about it or that the other software is wrong. It's let's make sure our data is good first, and then let's discuss it. And we found that like that relationship pays dividends.
Yeah. I mean, certainly as a marketer, I feel the pressure to, at a minimum, be data informed with the decisions I'm
Mm,
making and more likely be data driven,
mm,
whatever we want to define that as. And I think you're right. It's a literacy thing. It's understanding kind of why you're even engaging with data in the first place, and that's to make a better decision. Now, of
yeah.
course, if you're looking at revenue reporting, we're getting granular about getting marketing budget approved, stuff like that. There are instances where we need it to be super tight and super accurate,
Uh-huh.
but maybe the average day-to-day decision is more of a directional thing, and it's to say, is it up, is it down, is it, where are we heading, does it even matter if I'm up or if I'm outside of this or inside of this margin of error in this metric, like does it even matter, and gaining confidence with a handful of metrics that really 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 matter and being okay not looking at everything, I think is also something that can help you understand um, what's
Yeah.
core to how you're operating. Is there anything that you've purposefully kept out of the platform, or is it really kind of like if the data is there, somebody will want it, we should shape it up in a way that's useful?
Yeah, great question. There's stuff we've kept out of the platform, and there's stuff that we have like for better or worse added as well. I'm looking at usage charges as a contributor to MRR. Drives me a little bit insane, but at least we don't call it recurring. A lot of app partners they have their usage band is like meaningful and predictable enough that they consider it monthly recurring, right? Even though by
Mm.
definition it's not. Yeah, we allow them to layer that in, and we get all kinds of questions about how that works, and we're like, well, no, like you're forgetting this isn't MRR. Like, just be careful with how you handle it at your own peril. But at the same time, we get a lot of questions around benchmarking. I want to know how I'm performing on conversion, or how I am doing on retention. Are my am I doing better or worse at the app store level, the subscription level, stuff like that. Um, we haven't done much on benchmarking for two reasons. Um, I will say, like, I think we're going to in the near future. The biggest thing is that we wanted a big enough sample for it to be meaningful. So a new company, we needed to take the time to get there, especially where some categories are small and like we have like obvious
Sure.
users that are vocal about us. We wanted to make sure that like if we were to do anything, it's properly obfuscated, which I think like people are maybe expecting, like, I want to know how I'm doing against other drop shipping apps, for instance. But I don't think that's what our benchmarking will look like. Um, the uh, the uh, the other reason that like we sort of held off on it is that like we needed enough people so that we could like allow people to benchmark against things that are relevant for them, right? Like there are some apps that are just gangbusters, like as
Mm-hmm.
far as like app listing conversion, but then on the other side of it, their their churn is insane, right? So like making sure that we're not setting people down a path so they have unrealistic confidence or disappointment when they see benchmarking is like really important to us. We want people to come to Mantle because they want truth and they want to be validating their assumptions or invalidating them. We don't want to create false sentiment, and that's like one of the risks that benchmarking deal. The funny thing that we aren't doing that we get pressured a lot on is like, I don't think it's super well known, but like I would be willing to bet that like Mantle is like the second largest like merchant database next to Shopify itself. Like we have over 12 million merchant records in our system. We're tracking nearly half a billion in like like annual app revenue. So we see a lot. And uh, the question people always ask us is like, can you do a merchant rating system for us? Can you help us know if like a merchant is more likely to hold an app partner hostage with reviews, or things like what's this? I like we could do really cool things like we could tell you like this merchant has left 75 reviews across 200 apps, and the most common word in their reviews is pricing, and they leave their reviews within 7 days after they install. Uh, we but we don't do that. But that's like something that like we want to explore supporting on. But there's like a whole Shopify partner terms of service that we have to
Sure.
make sure we're
Right.
complying
Right.
with.
That I mean, we have a great relationship with the Shopify ecosystem. I feel like, and maybe that's subjective, but
Hmm.
you definitely are beholden to the ecosystem in some ways,
Hmm.
and you have to do a lot of work to stay up to date and in within the ecosystem. The
Hmm.
benchmarking thing is really interesting. We've had similar conversations here because of the number of websites that we've tracked over the years, and to a similar point, our conversations reach the idea that it's like, well, are these websites actually similar? Is this benchmark
Right.
valuable? And what's somebody going to take action on with knowing that a similar number of a site with similar number of SKUs, a similar average cart value or whatever has the same type of performance? It's like, well, that doesn't necessarily translate to an insight you could take to optimize your product page,
Hmm.
in the drop downs and whatever it might be. So that's definitely something we felt a call to as well.
It's a lot of responsibility to like balance that can you do it versus should you do it thing, especially if you're trying to like elevate effectiveness. It comes back on you in the form of like, am I getting value out of these things? Because that's how they interpret the value of Mantle, right? Or the value of Lucky Orange as well. Like if you're like, there's I think one of the main culprits in this like data literacy issue that I see is like the just dominance of vanity metrics and
Mhm.
the desire to like get the metrics that feel good for you. Like we've had customers that asked us to like just like outright like change the way we calculate things to accommodate their sort of worldview. And
Hmm.
we're just like, no, like this is what your numbers say. The good news is like you have every resource in the world to change it, like make it better. But but yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure, a lot of MRR graphs floating around on LinkedIn, a lot of people talking about uh, how fast they've grown as a bootstrap company or whatever the case is, and yeah, people could fall into traps that make them chase the wrong things.
Yeah. It's I think about the AI tools, and for a content marketing team, it is helping you move faster. If you want to use it for ideation, if you want to use
Mm-hmm.
it for writing drafts and whatnot. And on the data side, there is definitely something to asking a question with your data, about your data, and trusting its calculations, trusting its whatever. I think the best relationship you could have with it from a data standpoint is chasing a better understanding of what the numbers mean. Um, Maybe throw at the benchmark question. I mean, it's probably an honor to have people think that you can and should be doing that for them, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe there is a benchmark resource that's out there too. Um, for somebody that's listening who, using Mantle or not, feels like
Mm-hmm.
they're also just constantly looking at dashboards and facing decisions and kind of looking through an analytical fog every day. Where would you point them? How would you guide them to start having a better relationship with their data overall, Shopify app team or otherwise?
Yeah. The first thing I would say is just like respect your scale. Um, uh, think about your data from the perspective of what your business is today, not where you want it to be. And to a similar degree, not where you recently came from. I think the considerations of an app just starting out versus crossing that first 10K to 50K to 100K MRR, those are milestones that come with like different considerations. I was on a call last night with an app partner who is really trying to dig deep in certain churn metrics and LTV and retention, and it's like they've been alive for around a year. And like they're just starting out. They don't have a huge data set. And I'm like, you're looking for patterns where it's really too early to do. But like we went and we looked at their traffic sources and acquisition funnel, and like it was fantastic. It just wasn't scaled. Like their conversion was some of the best I've ever seen from viewing app listing to installed to subscribing. And I was like, just blow this up. Just like
Mm.
focus on your acquisition because you need more data. You need more people to churn to understand why people are churning at scale. So don't treat it like a scale problem. You're small enough where you can talk to these people one on one, right? But then there are bigger companies that have like sort of passed through that stage of uh, attempting to understand churn from a number you've got to stay below. Uh, and now they're at this like scale where they're operating uh, just ungodly numbers. Like I wish we were growing like they were. But they're still sort of just chasing that like, oh, this percent. And maybe there's like a VC in their ear that's like, you've got to stay below this benchmark or whatever. But when we looked at their data, well, it was super interesting because their their churn was trending up, but it wasn't having revenue impact on them. It turns out they were just attracting like more super low value customers, and all the people that are contributing to their revenue were sticking around.
Mm.
So looking at that 3% churn or whatever it was, it didn't actually matter for them. What mattered was that like the segment that is driving their revenue is deeply happy with them, and they needed to adjust their top of funnel a little bit if they wanted to adjust their churn. It wasn't
Mm.
about retention in the first place.
And that's, I
Um,
mean, even it's interesting, even, even big teams will have blind spots in their data where they're not seeing that connection between two data points. They're not seeing the
Mm,
pattern carry over past one
yeah.
isolated thing.
I think you asked like where they should turn, what they should do. I think just like operate with humility, try to learn as much as you can, try to learn from peers, and try to find app partners that have recently graduated from the stage of business that you're in right now. Ask them questions. Like there's tons of resources online, people doing good work. I think DS Matty, for instance, has done the ecosystem a tremendous service by putting out the content that he had for early stage app partners. But also like going to events and meeting other people that are living your experience. That's how you're going to learn the things you don't know. Um,
I love that.
Obviously, send Mantle a message, ping us on
Yeah,
Twitter. Happy to
definitely
dig in with you.
make it happen.
But yeah, I think the strongest app partners that I talk to also seem to have like the most killer networks within the ecosystem. And they're just like constantly sharing and learning from each other. It's
That's
pretty cool.
amazing. Yeah, I love that. I love that advice. I mean, get better at dealing with data by being more human, I think
Mm,
is a great path.
yeah.
And people at some point will get tired of throwing all their questions to ChatGPT and want to ask somebody who's had real experience. You mentioned some stuff that's coming down the pipeline in the near or not so distant future for Mantle. Is there anything in particular that gets you excited as you think about the back, I shouldn't even call it half now, the back handful of months
Yeah,
left
it's
in
crazy.
2025 in your space?
Yeah. Oh man, I think it's just at large like an exciting time. I think, man, there's like a lot of stuff about like these like graphs about Shopify is it like performing well right now, and like we kind of see a lot of data. It's like very healthy. Like
Mm-hmm.
Shopify is still a very very good spot to build. And I just like love seeing the growth that's happening there. So just like as like a participant in this world, it's like never not exciting. But for us in particular, like I think like I don't know if like we're already at the point where it's like boring to say it, but like AI is still super exciting. Like it's still so early days to see how people are leveraging it. We're kind of in this cool spot where we get to experiment with really meaningful data sets across like a pretty wide array of uh, partners that are doing different things. And we have a lot of really cool ideas for product that we want to be building and testing. I think one of the things that like I don't know, my founders will kill me for emphasizing this, but like one of the opinions that we're taking at Mantle is that like we aren't necessarily trying to be like your AI be all end all. Like do all your AI stuff in Mantle. No, like see people doing awesome stuff, like thinking of like Stuart Cheney at Revo, right? Building like agents and solving problems internally, but like leveraging tools that are available. I'm really interested in empowering those tools and like being a context or data source for them, because like if we've learned one thing, it's like all these businesses are so different and they want different things.
Yeah.
But if we could be trusted with the data that we're responsible for and power the experience that they want to have through agents that they're building, like why wouldn't we? So I think you'll see a Mantle MCP come in the not so distant future. May or may not being cooked right now.
Right.
And I'm like curious to see how that'll play out for us. We're also looking at just reaching our final version or final form of what we pitched way back in 2023. We're going to be releasing Mantle Pro this year, later than I expected, but for good reasons. It's going to be better because of it. Expect to see us more clearly taking on some help desk and CRM type business for
That's
sure.
amazing. That's super exciting. Well, thank you so much for carving out time. I'm glad we can make this happen. The website's heymantle.com, but where else can people connect with you and the team and learn more and figure out if Mantle might be a solution for them?
Yeah, we're pretty active on X. So at Hey Mantle there. Every year we do a conference called Tectonic. I say every year. It was our second one. But if the customer's always right, then we're obligated to do it again. It was a lot of fun. And truthfully, like we're really interested in just like supporting the Shopify partner ecosystem. So if there our partner meetups, and there's a chance for us to be involved and on the grounds. Like, we'd love to send people there and spend time with partners and support sort of like that reinvigoration of like these like meetups that have been a little bit sleepy for a little while. So we want to kickstart that.
Super cool. Well, Jordan, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Lucky Orange Show. Before we go, if you haven't tried Lucky Orange yet, head over to www.luckyorange.com for a free 7-day trial of our leading conversion rate optimization toolkit. What's in that toolkit? Well, let's start with session recordings and heat maps. With session recordings, you can watch a full playback of an entire visitor journey on your website. Everywhere they click, scroll, move, everything they do in your site, a full playback. So you can see what's getting in the way of conversions and what is getting people over that finish line to convert. With dynamic heat maps, you can see the average visitor behavior on a page. So you can see clicks, moves, and scrolls. You can see how far down the page the average visitor is scrolling. And if something is below that line, that means that more than 50% of visitors are not seeing that. Lucky Orange also offers tools like live chat, announcements, and surveys so that you can communicate with your website visitors in real time. So again, if you have not tried Lucky Orange, or if you're not a user yet, head over to luckyorange.com, check it out, 7-day free trial with no credit card required. If you're a Shopify store owner, head over to the Shopify App Store to download the Lucky Orange app to your store today, as well as BigCommerce, HubSpot, Square, and many more. Check us out, and happy optimizing.